Right, I've gone over a few of these stems with watercolour pencil, just in case I lose my way while the paint is going on. And I also used a palette knife just to flick on some random masking fluid dots, just to loosen up and brighten up the background. And I'm going to start by wetting the whole background, the whole sheet of paper, and I'm going to be drifting in colours from the top down. And I'm using pure cotton paper here, and it's cold pressed paper, which stays damp for slightly longer than hot pressed paper does, so it's a little easier to work with on a painting of this nature. And also it's less inclined to tear the way something with wood pulp or cellulose in, like Bockingford or the Langton, one of those papers, can tear if you're using masking fluid. Right, that's good and wet, time to go, and I'm just going to drift in a mixture of blues and yellows from the top and hope that I'll be able to just create some lovely soft greens just by letting them flow together. You see I'm going over the flower there, and then I'm going to come in with some yellow. And you see if I run the yellow over the green, I get, sorry, yellow over the blue, I get a green. Let's come back to the blue over here. That yellow could have been a little harsh, but that's not a problem. I can water it down quite easily. I'll show you how. Have a little bit more strength up here. That there's definitely too bright, so all I'm going to do is just dilute it and run the paint off. And because the background is wet and the paint is quite watery, it'll flow around quite easily. Then coming down, I want it to be light up until about this level and then start bringing in some more colour. And I've got various blues to mix up. On my palette I have Windsor Blue, red shade, I have Indanthrone Blue, I have Payne's Grey, and on another palette my more common combination, which is Ultramarine Blue with Indian Yellow. So just getting some soft colours up here. I still feel that this is a little bit intense over there, so I shall just mist it some more. And there it flows off the paper, and I've got a lovely soft colour. And you can see I'm putting the paint on in sort of a diagonal flow, just to give a little bit of energy into the background of the painting. So that's very watery colours, and I'm now going to bring out some slightly stronger mixes of colour as I work my way down the painting. So let's see now. Just getting an idea of the sort of colour. That's nice. That's the Indian Yellow and Ultramarine Blue. But it's again starting off quite watery, and I can intensify as I go down. Now this is not stretched paper, it's been moistened quite a lot, so it's forming pillows, and I've got a furrow there, and I just need to be sure that the paint flows out of the furrow. If it settles there, it'll stay damp for longer than the surrounding paint, and it will become at risk of making cauliflowers. So just bringing in some of these darker greens and perhaps a bit of gold. I have here some quinacridone gold, which would be nice over here, just to warm up the composition. So rather than painting one solid colour, I'm adding in mixes of colours and separate colours and allowing them to mingle. That's soft and pretty there, I rather like that. And in this area, I'm wanting to go around these little clusters of fluffy flowers on the meadow sweet. I think we need to come up more blue here, sort of a watery blue. Now here I can see the paint sitting, which means that my background is drying out. So I need to work fairly quickly here now. Let's have a little bit more of that gorgeous gold. Right, so that's most of the paint on in that area. Now I need to think about what's happening. This is all done. I do need to dry off the paint that's run off the edges, because that will flow back on. Okay, now I need to look at this meadow sweet. This is wet still, so I need to add some thick paint just to separate these little clusters. See, thick paint onto a damp surface will stay more or less where you put it. But it'll have soft edges. Right, now if I wanted some more grassy shapes in the background, now would be a good time to introduce them. Just to soften this and loosen it up. Now, I've got another little furrow forming there. I need to keep an eye on it. But I want to show you a couple of tricks for making some more meadow sweet. Let's say we want a little cluster over there. I'm going to sprinkle in ordinary table salt. In carefully controlled little clusters. What it does is it repels the paint around it and makes little blooms, which could suggest layers of meadow sweet. I'd like some up here. Admittedly, it's fairly pale, so it may not show up as well, but we'll see. You've got to be very careful that you don't actually sprinkle salt in other random parts of the painting where you didn't want it. Perhaps we'll have another little cluster over there just to link things. And then another thing you can do is with either a bit of tissue or a damp brush, you can blot out softly some more little pale areas. If you do it too soon, the paint will seep back over and cover that area. Perhaps try another little one over there. And of course it depends on when you do it, how damp the paper is. Now another thing one could do is using a transparent, at least an opaque paint, such as Naples Yellow. I'm just going to dab some in and we'll see what happens. So we could put some over there. It's not showing up very well because it's over quite a dark area, but I could even put some here. I'm putting it on quite thickly, and that's where I've lifted off the green from the background. See whether it actually adds to anything at all. We're going to define these areas more later. I think that was too close in colour to the quinacridone gold, so I'm just going to lift it again. But it's given a nice little tint to that ball of fluff. Here I think we'd like to lift a little more out. So you're doing this when the paper is damp. Just getting these soft shapes of the fluffy meadow sweet. If you do it too soon, it fills up again. If you do it too late, you get very hard-edged shapes. I'm a little concerned about that furrow, just need to keep an eye on it. But I think I'll lift out some more meadow sweet. What I might want to do, because these are pink flowers, pale pink, and these are dark, might want to bring a little bit more pink further up the composition. So I'm going to just damp, drop in a little bit of the odd pink flower. Because it's damp, it'll be soft edged, so it'll push it into the background. If you have too much water on your brush, it'll spread too far, and it'll also make a sort of a cauliflower, which is not the effect that we're looking for. We're just wanting some soft little flowers showing in the background. Got pink there, got some there. Might just bring one up there just so we don't have a hole in the composition. And rather than one on its own, let's have a pair of them. So it's just a suggestion of a distant flower. Now, looking at that furrow, perhaps we can drop some salt in. And that will certainly deal with that and give it a nice edge. Perhaps another little sprinkling over there. Right, and what I can do at this point as well is to lift off some stems, because this is very dark and I'm going to lose my memory of where they were. That's it. So just with a damp brush, doing a little bit of lifting. And then here we have one that came down there. Because this is damp, these will end up having soft edges, but I can deal with that later. I could bring sort of lost and found. Right, and I think I'm going to leave